What is going on? Welcome back to the Fully Vetted Show. It's been a while, but I am fired up.
I am too. This is going to be a fun episode.
Yep, I've got Billy Collins with me. We're going to do a...
kind of a reaction video to some iconic war movies.
Just a take on what's realistic, what's not realistic, and then maybe we can see what sparks some funny stories.
So we went over a list of movies. We'll get a good judgment on what...
Yeah. Just find a good talking point, maybe see what sparks from each scene from each movie.
Yeah, so first movie that we have to do
the
this
iconic.
I mean, this is the movie.
Yeah.
I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor. You will not like me.
At least for Marines, if you haven't seen Full Metal Jacket, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, I feel like even civilians, if you haven't seen that,
because
I think
everybody's seen that.
That is the movie that kept me out of the Marine Corps. Was Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket was one, and interestingly enough too, is like usually people go for the movies that are like heavy action, heavy combat, but a lot of that movie, and like I think like 70% of that movie was like them in boot camp.
Yeah,
which is like the weird part that like no one gets into. I did not want to
get beat the shit out of me with bars of soap. Yeah, I was good. I was good because I would be that guy.
The opening scene for this is like them first meeting their drill instructor. So R. Lee Ermey's kind of like a pop culture icon in the military because he was a Marine, was a drill instructor, and so I think what the story goes like they first got him to do Full Metal Jacket as like a consultant. When they saw him do it, they were like, "You have to play this role. Like we can't just have you teach these actors. You got to do it."
Now, just a disclaimer: there are a little bit of racial, a little bit of
cursing.
Yeah,
it's a very explicit scene.
But you have to have that to get the feel of it.
Because I am hard, you will not like me. But the more you hate me, the more you will learn.
So the first thing that stands out to me is this thing that's called the sir sandwich.
Sir, yes, sir.
It's like no one says sir, yes, sir. So you'd usually be like I, sir, or I, sir.
In that same realm, I do hear often, yes, drill sergeant, or
yeah. So
it's
different on the branches. Like the Marine Corps, they are drill instructors.
I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor.
And if you say something other than drill instructors, like if you have this thing in your mind when you show up that they're drill sergeants, and you call them drill sergeant, you're gonna get hazed for it. The first few days you're at boot camp is like receiving, so you're getting issued all your gear, and there's a bunch of people that their job is to kind of like corral you and get you through that process. But when the day comes that you meet your drill instructors, there is something kind of similar to this. You're not at your racks online like this. You're all kind of like sitting in a, like Indian style in a group, and they do this whole procession where they all come out, they snap to attention. 3 or 4 drill instructors will all stand there, and the senior drill instructor, which is this guy right here, he's your senior drill instructor. He's in charge of the whole platoon. The heavy, which is the one that's supposed to teach you, he's the right-hand man to the senior. Your knowledge guy is the one that's supposed to teach you things. And then there's like your kill hat, which is the one that's just supposed to kill you.
This is set in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. Every time you talk to every decade, every Marine is like, well, when I was in, we were, learning how to shoot with iron sights. Certain things have changed throughout time where it's like everyone knows how to shoot with iron sights, but at the same time, the main thing is an optic because it's magnified and it's better. But at least for when I was in, there's like this rehearsed speech that they come out and say, and it's the first time you really truly meet drill instructors. These guys have just had their heads shaved. They've put on camis for the first time. They're ready to really become a part of the platoon, to become a Marine. They're meeting their drill instructors for the first time, and it's probably one of the most intimidating, no matter how bad you are, when you show up and these guys come out, it is like you want to talk about a gut check moment. It's your very first gut check of like, this is when shit hits the fan and you're like, why am I here? I'm completely by myself. No one is, there's no human resources. There's no one I can turn to ask for help. It is literally me and all these other dudes who feel the exact same way as I do. And these are our parents now.
Here you are all equally worthless. And my orders are to weed out all non-hackers who do not pack the gear to serve in my beloved Corps. Do you maggots understand that?
Another sir sandwich.
I can't hear you. What's your name, scumbag?
Sir, Brown and Brown, sir!
Anytime you address them, you have to be screaming.
Sir!
Well, there's one thing that you won't like, Private Snowball. They don't serve fried chicken and watermelon on a daily basis in my mess hall.
Sir, yes, sir!
That you, John Wayne?
This is when, like, you're dead.
Who the fuck said
He
that?
wouldn't even have been this cool about it.
Slimy little cunt.
All four of them would have sworn.
Yeah.
Oh, like instantly.
Just like
Instantly.
dogs on a T-bone.
Oh, you're done.
Huh? The very fucking godmother said it. I'm fucking standing. I will PT you all until you fucking die.
But of course, no one outs him because you're
They don't
already
wanna be-
learning
yeah.
to be for the boys. There's a misconception that they can't put their hands on you at boot camp. They absolutely can.
They can.
Who are you gonna? What are you gonna say? Who are you gonna tell?
Little piece of shit, you look like a fucking worm. I bet it was you.
Sir, no, sir!
Sir, I said it, sir!
Well, no shit. What have we got here? A fucking comedian, private joker. I admire your honesty. Hell, I like you. You can come over to my house and fuck my sister. You little scumbag. I got your name. I got your ass. Private joker, why did you join my beloved corps?
Sir, to kill, sir!
So you're a killer.
Sir, yes, sir!
Let me see your war face.
Sir!
You got a war face? Ah! That's a war face. Now let me see your war face. Ah! Bullshit. You didn't convince me. Let me see your real war face. Ah! Work on it.
Sir, yes!
Work on it.
Very good. How tall are you, Private? Sir, 5'9", sir. 5'9". I didn't know they stacked shit that high. Where in hell are you from anyway, Private? Sir, Texas, sir. Holy God.
So one of the things he just messed up on, which would get you again hazed at boot camp, is he said I. You're not allowed to refer to yourself in the first person. You cannot say, I want this, I need that, I think this. The word I just isn't in your vocabulary. You have to refer to yourself as this recruit. So another problem too is that he's referring to them as private so-and-so, or
But they're not private, so they're
there's always
pretty sure.
private pile. You're not a Marine until you graduate boot camp, or at least until the week prior when you go through the crucible and you get your Eagle Globe and Anchor that they hand to you. You're not a Marine.
You're just a boot.
You're a recruit. The whole purpose is to break you down to where you don't even really have an identity. And then at a certain phase in boot camp, they start to build you back up until when you graduate, you're no longer who you were when you joined, you're now a Marine. I would, kind of argue like after rifle week, when you go to the range and you start to learn how to use your rifle, you learn infantry tactics, you start to learn how to be a Marine, it starts to subside a bit. There becomes a point in time where they start to build you, and you can feel it. If you're older, I was older when I was at boot camp, so I kind of understood. You start to get to a point where you realize like, oh, things are getting a little bit better. It's not great, but it's better because we're in the build-up phase. We're not in the belittle phase. The first phase of boot camp is literally, if you had the choice between boot camp and prison, a lot of people would probably choose prison. Yeah, so this is a scene from Jarhead. This is during their Iraq War, and he is going through scout sniper training. It's basically its own separate school. Infantry guys can either try out for, it's called an indoc, like an indoctrination. They'll try out for a scout sniper platoon. And then once you're in a scout sniper platoon, this was a little different. I think in this movie, he just got selected to go to the school. But a lot of times what will happen is you go to a scout sniper platoon, you operate with that platoon for a little bit as what's called a PIG. If you graduate scout sniper school, now you are a legitimate scout sniper, which is called a HOG. PIG is professionally instructed gunman. HOG is hunter of gunmen. The scout sniper's ultimate mission is to take out other snipers.
That's kind of badass.
Yeah, and then a scout sniper has been through all the schools, or is a Razorback. It's all swine related. This is him going through scout sniper school, and I guess this is basically the very beginning and the intro of his experience with his instructor.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because I am the baddest motherfucker in the goddamn valley.
Yes, yes, Sergeant!
It's one of the best motivational speeches I've ever seen in a military movie.
Sergeant!
Yes, what?
Yes, I am still here, Staff Sergeant.
Your mission is to kill me. My mission is to kill you first. And I'm good. Them paintball bullets.
This is so funny.
Yep.
But your target must not see you. 7.
a ghillie suit. Every scout sniper creates their own ghillie suit.
Really?
Yeah, and they have to actually weather it and go run it through mud and really,
I guess
like,
they just different places have different suits. You know,
so a scout sniper will make a ghillie suit, and that is their one and only ghillie suit. But what they'll do is they'll change that ghillie suit depending on the environment they're in.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you're in a jungle environment, you'll start to put foliage in your ghillie suit from the jungle, but it's the same suit that they build out of their camis. They glue extra material on the legs
Like
and knees, based on the
burlap or
front
something,
side of
yeah.
it, because they're always crawling. So all kinds of stuff like that, and they'll change it. If these guys right now are in an arid environment because they're training for Iraq, so
it's the
he's got a
ultimate
lot of
camouflage.
grass. Yeah, you change it based on your environment. So no matter what environment you're in, you just find local, fauna from that environment, build it into your suit, and the more you use the suit, the dirtier and nastier it gets, and the more it gets
realistic, I
weathered.
would
Yeah,
think, yeah.
it doesn't even look like your camis anymore.
I can see
It
the
becomes
enemy
brown.
like, why is that bush so well groomed? It's got creases. The pants have got pleats.
That bush smells like Old Spice, man. That's what he goes into. You move, you breathe, you shit in your pants. Anything outside of staying completely still will get you killed.
How far are those trees? 500 yards. 600. 300. 300. How'd you figure that?
3 football fields.
3 football fields. That's right. You take.
So that's legit. Range estimation is huge. You really do have to go off of what you know. The military uses meters, which translates pretty well to yards. If I'm going to call out a target to a machine gunner and I'm going to say 300 meters away, I'm thinking 3 football fields. And that's exactly how you do it, is you just take a measurement that you do know. I can kind of gauge my distance based off that. It's important to be able to do that kind of stuff.
3 football fields. That's right. You take what you know and then you multiply. Please don't use your dicks. They're too small and I can't count that high. I don't hear 400,000 inches. Now, wind. Use what you have. Use a flag. Use a plume of smoke. A little bit of dust. Spit on your finger and hold that bitch up. These are formulas that you can use, but in the end, you have to trust your gut. Details, gentlemen. Details is going to be the difference.
Now, how much do you think there's a lot of truth in this, or
the PT? At least like in the infantry, PT was run by your actual. So we had team PT, squad PT, platoon PT, depending on the day, because we PT'd every morning. Most of the time it was team PT, so a team leader was in charge of running what they're doing now. But in a school, the class will PT as a group. So like I went to what's called advanced school. It was very similar construct as far as how things were run, where in the morning, everyone would PT together. You see this like column run where everyone's running together and everyone knows the scenes where like everyone's shouting a cadence and someone's singing a song. It's more of an army thing. And the Marine Corps does it for like motivational type runs and battalion type runs. But usually it's like guys are running with a tire on their shoulders, or like a chopped up telephone pole where like 4 guys have to run with a telephone pole on their shoulders. That kind of stuff where it's practical fitness more than just like an organized run.
because what I found interesting about what he just said about the wind. Use a flag, use smoke, use dust.
Yeah, so that's
lick your
really
finger,
that's
shove
really
it.
realistic. So windage is, God, I hope no scout snipers are watching. But windage, when it comes to shooting a rifle,
I hope they are, and if he's wrong, leave us a comment down below.
Please, haze me.
Yeah.
But inside of 200 to 250 meters, wind doesn't really play that big of a factor. It's outside of that, 300 and beyond when windage becomes an issue. At boot camp, you train to shoot at 500 meters. At that point, you have to make a wind call, which means if the wind is blowing from left to right to you, you need to hold to the right so that the bullet can travel in its trajectory. The wind will bring the bullet to the left. Everyone's seen the kind of movies where like the guy picks up dirt and drops the dirt and the dirt falls and all of a sudden he can make this brilliant call. It's really not like that. And they have a wind meter and a barometer that'll tell them the humidity and the wind speed and everything. And they have what's called their dope, and they know how to calculate based off of what they know from their optic. The next part of this video is actually interesting because you kind of see what happens to a lot of guys when they figure all that out. But this scene right here, when he hits this target for the first time, there's something that happens to him. Watch his face. Watch his reaction. He goes, oh shit, I hit it. That's how you make a killer. That's one of those things where I found in that movie was a really good depiction of what happens to somebody when they realize a 5-pound trigger pull is all it takes to end a life. and you're doing it for a just cause, it's a pretty powerful emotion that kind of comes over you when he looks out of that optic at his target and goes, I just domed it perfectly. Yeah. It was interesting they threw that in the movie because that's a realistic feeling that a lot of people have when they realize that, like,
yeah, I can imagine.
What I just did was, if that was a human being, that was lights off. This is Saving Private Ryan. It's probably one of the most popular scenes from it, where Tom Hanks is kind of at his last stand.
Yeah, it's like
the moment where
Custer's last stand or Captain Miller's last stand.
This is the moment he knows he's going to die. All he has left is his sidearm, and there's like a Sherman tank rolling at him.
And it's just
like, this is it.
We were pre-watched it before when that happened. I kind of got goosebumps. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a moment where you can kind of see he does a good job of portraying it, where he realizes, like, this is my last stand, and how am I going to go out?
It's almost like he has come to grips with, he's like,
and
this is the way I want to go out.
And he's made a decision. It was like, if I'm going to die right now, how am I going to die? And the best part of the movie is not just what happens to him, but what happens in general. What you see, like, in hindsight, when you see it, you're like, wow, lucky him. But he didn't know that. So his decision that he made, knowing it was completely futile, it's like shooting a pistol at a tank, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, let's just roll it.
Yeah, let's roll it. So they're getting shelled right now.
Yeah.
And he's getting pretty accurate fire. I mean, these guys all right here are so close. I mean, he's within feet of the German.
He can
feet. With a machine gun with enfilade, he's in a great spot, but he doesn't have a weapon. And he makes the decision to move out of cover, even though he's taking accurate fire, to try to get something happening. He goes right into the open, takes a round.
Right in the
chest, center mass. Sherman tank rolls in. And there's nothing he can do.
Now, is the Sherman tank probably the most iconic tank?
That was, yeah.
I mean, everybody knows
I may be
it was
wrong
Sherman
on
tank.
it being I'm pretty sure it's a Sherman, because that was their flagship tank at the time. But he just posts up and he's like, look, this is where I go. And he doesn't stand a chance,
Yeah, I mean, there's 6 tons of steel coming at him.
Yeah, I mean, every single one of these rounds pings right off that armor. And then the Savior.
I mean,
for a second, he probably thought he did that.
but
invincible.
He's like, yes. Holy shit.
It was a good shot.
God.
It's like our modern day A-10s right there, the tank kills.
that was, so...
There's like this, it's not really that popular or common, but there's like this, this prayer that is supposedly like the infantry prayer, or something that has to do with let my aim be straight and true or whatever. But at the end of the prayer, it says, and Lord, if today is the day you call me home, let me die in a pile of empty brass. If I'm going to die here in this foreign country, in a place that I don't know, for a war I don't necessarily agree with or know anything about, at least let me go out in a pile of empty brass. Don't let me be the guy that just hid behind a rock and got blown up.
Yeah.
I want to go out fighting. I want to
leave a legacy.
I want to go out fighting. If I have to shoot a pistol at a tank, I'm going to do it until the tank takes me. It's just I'm not I'm not just going to lay down and die.
I would be in my head. I would be sitting there and I'd blow it up like, okay, this was my moment to die. I was supposed to go out on top now. What the hell's going on?
And now this airplane took it away
It's
from
like,
me.
how many moments do they have? Do you think?
If you talk to somebody that was from the Second World War, I would say that they probably should have. They would all probably say that they probably would have died a dozen times.
Yeah.
There's probably a dozen scenarios where they were in a situation where they shouldn't have made it, and they made it. When you meet a veteran from that era and they're alive, it's almost like
winning the
it's
lottery.
meeting a celebrity, because you're like, how did you live through such an atrocious conflict? The story I told a long time ago about meeting the guy from Vietnam on the cruise that volunteered to go back. He did 2 tours as a machine gunner, and you're like, you went through 2 different combat deployments in Vietnam and lived. You come home and play the lottery. You know, like that's the kind of shit you do. You come home and you put some money in a scratch off because you're a lucky dude.
Yeah, and that, you know, like my grandfather got 2 Purple Hearts when World War II and in the Korean War. And I'm like, were you just extremely lucky or just extremely unlucky because you got shot twice, Grandpa?
You were shot twice, but at the same time, I mean, you got shot twice and you lived. And 2 different conflicts too. I mean, it's that there's something about those conflicts and those veterans where because at the time, I mean, you think of storming the beaches of Normandy on D-Day, and the amount of rounds that were coming at you. You know what I mean? And to not have, and even if you were hit, but to not have been mortally wounded by one of them, and you lived through the entire storming the beach, moving up the dunes,
the blood sea,
and you lived it, and you made it through that, and it's just like to think of yourself lucky enough to live, not only lucky enough to live, and then to have to live with the actual, you know, the images that you saw in that place. It's just it's a wild thing to comprehend.
Like, why did I survive?
Well, I mean, I know that in small teams there's a lot of survivor's guilt, but when you see that much attrition and you see that many people go down, it's not even about the why did I survive, it's about how did I. No one should have survived that. They have the high ground, you're coming out of the water, you have a limited movement. It was such a weird,
a bad dynamic. It was just not the most,
I mean,
and strategic.
And D-Day was mostly Army. The Marine Corps is an amphibious force, so they train for coming from the water to the land. But the idea of coming out of something with so much friction, you're trying to swim to the beach because the craft you were coming in on just got smoked, and you're trying to swim into the beach, and the funny thing is that a lot of those guys didn't even have rifles. Some of those guys only carried ammo, and their job was to pick up the rifle from a dead person because there were only so many rifles per so many people. I think for a lot of veterans, they think back to like those 2 conflicts specifically, World War II and Vietnam, and the amount of rounds you took from the enemy. It wasn't like in Afghanistan where you were shooting a small cell from the other side of the mountain, or in Iraq, it was a very different dynamic war with buildings, but like you were literally just a line of troops that were just all shooting at you. Living through something like that is something I think a lot of veterans think about, and just it's kind of mind-blowing to just that's why meeting those veterans, and if we have any watching, comment below if you served in Vietnam, or you know, any of the remaining World War II veterans that are around are just, they're kind of revered as some of the, that's why the greatest generation.
Which leads us into this, which happens to be
Down.
one of my, I wanted to pick this on here because this is one of the movies that when I watched it, I don't get choked up over many movies, but for this one, it hit me. I'm not sure if the clip is going to show what I was talking about, but
yeah, but a lot of people know Black Hawk Down, and the situation in Somalia where you have a downed aircraft, and you have a quick reaction force, or a QRF, that's kind of trying to move in to secure the area to recover not just the people but the aircraft too. It's important to recover sensitive material from military vehicles. So this scene, I think, cuts to the Somali rebels, and they're gearing up to go get whoever's left and take the helicopter. So obviously the warlord. This is the QRF force that's sent in to help them. The heartthrob, Josh Hartnell.
I think this is the first movie that I saw where it's like kind of urban warfare.
Yeah, Somalia was a real gut check for a lot of dudes because we hadn't really been that proficient in a full-blown war that was this urban. And guerrilla-style war. We came from Vietnam from guerrilla war, but this was urban guerrilla warfare, which was very different. Technical vehicles, where guys just have Toyota trucks, they throw some machine guns on, and
instead of camo, they should have been wearing like polo shirts, or you know.
But you don't know who the enemy is really, because there's so many civilians in this situation that you're trying not to kill anyone innocent, but at the same time, fire is ringing from everywhere.
Yeah.
Guy's got a saw. Fucking minigun, making music with that thing. And that's the thing about urban warfare is it's three-dimensional, so it's not just left, right, it's up and down too. Yeah, you got to watch up. And there's corners everywhere. Gunner down, you got to pull him down and get back up on the turret though. Somebody's got to get back on the gun. There he goes.
What did you guys call it? Next after something like that?
It was just a gunner down, which means you rip him out of the turret, someone gets back on the gun, and they treat the casualty in the vehicle. Got a 50 cal. RPG. Throw a frag. It went off pretty quick. This is the problem, though, is that they're all out in the open and they're all so close together.
But now, does that depict what really happens, or and what?
There's some situations. There's some situations where you get bunched up, especially in alleyways like that, where in urban warfare, when you're moving through an alleyway, you're trying to stay off of walls. You want to really be like arm's distance off a wall for ricochets. If a bullet hits a wall and throws frag from the wall, or the bullet ricochets, could hit you. It's a choke point, which means that it's like a funnel. When traffic goes down to one lane, all of a sudden all the vehicles have to merge into one lane, and there becomes this congestion area. It's kind of hard in an alleyway like that, especially so narrow. And when you're taking fire, the lead guy is going to slow down a lot to find cover, and the next guy feels like he needs to get out there to. So it becomes this area where a good leader is going to have to try to organize his guys to point them in the direction of where they need to go, because like that happened where the guy pulls out a machine gun, and you're in this area where you're all bunched up. You have what's called enfilade, where if you imagine 7 guys all in line together and I'm shooting machine gun, it's just you're all done. Yeah. You have to disperse. You have to be able to be far enough from each other to where
give them multiple targets.
I have to make myself a singular target so that I don't make all of my buddies targets as well. So I have to find my own area of cover. It's difficult.
I know exactly what show. Every time I play Ghost Recon,
but when you notice, but if you notice how many people can get killed in one moment from one person. Now, this movie, though, what I would say is it's easy in hindsight to pick apart what they're doing wrong as far as infantry tactics, but this movie accurately portrays some of the downfalls of urban combat, where you run into these situations where sometimes you are all bunched up and someone starts opening up on something that's fully automatic, and you see what happens where it's pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
So he's got a saw, so at least he's got automatic on automatic. Now, see, you're completely outnumbered. At this point, you're going to try to break contact, which is what they're doing. They're trying to exfil out of that area because they know you're not going to match that many guns.
Right.
Say that again, sir.
So you're trying to exfil, which is trying to get out of where you currently are. When you're against that many guns, you're going to break contact. Even you could be a pro boxer, but you can't fight off 20 dudes. You know what I mean? There's a certain point where you're like, okay, we're not going to win this fight. We need to get out. So they're going to try to bound back, which is what they're doing in this video, where some guys will lay down suppressing fire, which kind of keeps them, from just running at you. So you're trying to shoot some rounds at them where the majority of your troops can move, and then when they get set in a position, they will lay down suppressing fire. That means you can move back, and you kind of do this. It's called bounding, where we do this kind of back and forth until we can get to a place, and that's what they're starting to do here. Is they're realizing when they see that group of dudes walking down the street, they're like, okay, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
It's bad. But they're getting hit from all sides. So back in the Iraq War, they didn't have these up-armored Humvees like we have nowadays. A lot of these guys had soft-skin Humvees, where an RPG takes out an entire truck. And he took a round of the plate carrier. That might have stopped it, but most of their plate carriers even then would stop a 7.62, which is from an AK. Now in this situation, you go out and complete uncover like that, throw a 40 Mike at a truck and hit it, you're probably going to get a Medal of Honor. I think that's a little bit more of a Hollywood type situation.
Right.
You're never going to leave yourself that exposed like that to a machine gun. A tail shot's a death shot.
Yeah, because you have no steer.
Can't stabilize a helicopter
Yeah.
without the tail, so brace for impact. This is when the real trouble happens. And there's no bailing from that one.
No, you can't.
Yeah, helicopter pilots are good. They're trained to control crash, so they can still steer a little bit enough to control the crash, but this is when all hell broke loose. The helicopter pilots are only armed with pistols, so going against a bunch of AKs is... He's got like a
Hey, I'm just a pilot.
MP4 or MP5 or something like that, but which is pretty dope.
You're locked and loaded. These skitties come around these corners. You watch your backs.
Locked and loaded is not a term anyone uses anymore.
Nah.
Now, see, if you look behind them, there's a bunch of civilians, and it's
Kind of hard.
you're in a really weird situation. You got to make a quick decision too when you realize a casualty is unsavable.
Yeah, they're doing like a Harlem Shake.
Yeah, but like when you look at this, you really have to figure out who has a gun and who doesn't, and there's really no way to know.
Jeez, this is crazy.
This was a situation where there was no
what-
winning. There was no winning. You just die in a pile of empty
This is
grass.
what got me right here. I think this is the scene that really, yes.
Well, it's pulling the body
Yeah,
out.
this is it.
That's when you have to think of, there's two scenarios. You think of the scenario where someone dies in combat, his buddies drag him back, and,
Hold on one second. Before you do that, I'm going to put the thing up on the screen so we don't
Okay.
upset this. How do I get away from this? Is it? What do I hit?
Yeah, the media.
So that's one of those things where, you see in that last scene when you see them carrying the body out of the helicopter, a lot of people assume when most people die in combat, they're
Casket is back, draped.
well,
in
they're
the flag, and
they're with their own troops. They get shot. A corpsman comes, they can't save them. They bring them back to their FOB or their casualty collection point, and they're still with U.S. forces. But when you picture a situation like that where your child dies in a foreign land, and you imagine their body being carried off by those foreigners for God knows what, somehow, and the U.S. military is great about recovering bodies. I mean, if we know we've lost somebody and we don't have them, we're gonna fucking come get them.
Yeah.
And you better pray to God you just leave him for us, because we will get them. That was a situation where they had the upper hand, but we have a lot of forces, and we will bring everybody to get them.
I know. I would. I'm not so sure about now. I'm sure we still have with our current situation, our government, and whatever
Yeah.
the case would be. But back in the day, if
Oh yeah,
hell had
you have
was
to,
coming. It was coming hard.
There are battalion commanders that control a battalion, and there are The U.S. government only has so much say to the military in operations overseas. They can make phone calls, they can make sat calls, they can get in contact with you if they really need to. But if I've lost somebody, Congress couldn't stop me from getting together a platoon or a company and going and get. The military is a very different place where, yes, it is controlled by a commander-in-chief, and yes, it is controlled by Congress, and they do call the shots. But in a situation like this, no matter who your commander-in-chief is, whether you think that they'll use all of their own resources to get you or not, the military will get you. I would rather be punished for doing something, for breaking a lawful order, if I knew it was the right thing.
Yeah.
And in that situation, there's nothing going to stop me from going and recovering those bodies. There's plenty of guys.
A lot of dead Somalians.
Yeah, I need a dozen dudes, and we're going to go get them. It's how it works.
So this was really fun.
Yeah, this is good.
I mean,
we have a lot more clips and a lot more ideas.
Yeah, and I
we'll
think
have to do a part 2.
Yeah, definitely have to do a part 2, and I think we should bring some in our old, our vets that we've had on the channel and do it.
We get somebody.
Show them the shirt.
The fully vetted show.
You like that? We might do a merch situation. We never know with a fully vetted show, but yeah. Awesome job.
Yeah, it was cool.
I mean, it's fun stuff. So.
Yeah, I like doing stuff like this. Is fun just to talk through some stuff. Movies are funny because a lot of times Hollywood makes it real,
glorified
dramatic and it just over the top. But every once in a while, you can pick out little details that are like, oh, that's pretty on point.
Somebody was in that war or something.
And they definitely get good consultants, and at some point in a movie, they kind of hit the nail on the head. So these were some good options. We have some other really good ones.
And if you have one, leave Jordan a comment down below.
Yeah, if you have an idea, even a specific scene that you're like, oh, this would be a great one, or I would love to do some that are just like completely awful, would never make it past any.
Matter of fact, let's tell them to leave the worst.
Yeah, so that would be a great funny part too. Is like your worst, most atrocious, like pick it apart. Let's make fun of some movie scenes. Leave those in the comments. I think that would be a good one because there are so many movies that get it right, but most of the movies, we happen to pick the ones that did a good job, but a lot of these movies are just like, I can't even watch some of these movies because they're just so bad.
So cringy.
Yeah, so cringy. A guy shooting 50, 60 times before he has to reload, and you're like, what, this just like... unlimited
clips.
ammunition, stuff like that. It's great, but we'll definitely do that. Billy, thanks for doing it.
Oh, no, thank you.
Matt, thanks for pulling up the videos.
Go ahead and take us home.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed this, like and subscribe because we've got some more coming out. We're going to ramp it back up a bit. We took a little hiatus, but we were definitely looking for people to come on the show if you want to tell your story. I would love to talk to some more people. If you're interested, just drop us a line. You can hit me up personally at the Fully Vetted Show on Instagram, or just comment in this video here, and we'll get in touch with you. Until then, we'll see you next time.